Okay, my friends, Roger once again, and I am going to start right from the beginning how all of this stuff fell on me, and literally fell on me. I don't know why I was chosen to do this, but I was chosen. I originally had a channel here long ago that got destroyed, and I finally just abandoned it. And I was making statements back then about what had happened to me. I woke up one morning and I said to my wife, I said, I feel like there's something in the woods calling my name. I got to go out and look. And I did, and I found mud fossils. And at first nobody would look and nobody would pay any attention. And I went back out and I found more. And at this time I found giant human beings. And when I came back, I typed into the computer looking for giants. And the first thing, or well, I don't know if it's the first thing, excuse me, but right away, a phrase came up, and I cannot explain it. It came up. It says, "These things are for you to see and for others as a test." And I blew my mind. I tried to figure out where the text came from. Never could figure it out. And from that day on, every single thing that I saw, I could understand. I mean, all the way down into the light realm. And I understand the sons of light. Pistis Sophia, all the beginning of the universe, it's now beginning to make sense to me. I can't tell you why or how, but it's just happened. And now finally people are starting to come around, and I'm hearing everybody's beginning to talk about the giants, and this will lead them into the texts that were different than the texts that you've read. Let me put it that way. You read Apollodorus, and that's going to blow your mind. Hesiod, Apollodorus, Ovid, Metamorphosis, any of that stuff. But it was all written back then, not now. Now we've just distorted everything and made it into our own perception of what we think we should believe, and they're all crazy people just writing stories to scare kids. No, not that way at all. Now, I'm going to tell you right exactly what did happen to me, and it's not a pretty picture. It's not a pretty picture at all, to be perfectly honest with you. When you stand back and you look at it as an overall situation, what happened? It's a complete opposition of reality, where you're being educated. You're being educated not to believe in reality. All right, now, I'm not bragging about this happening to me. It just happened. And I'm going to tell you more happened. It just kept coming and coming. This just dropped on me a few days later. Somebody sent it to me, or can't even remember how I saw this. But it says, brother, this is Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 1:27. It says, brothers, consider the time of your calling. Not many of you were wise by human standards, which is me. I didn't accept anything. Not many were powerful, that's me. Not many were of noble birth, again me. But God chose the foolish things, again me, of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things, again me, of the world to shame the strong. He chose the lowly and despised things of the world, again me both, and the things that are not to nullify the things that are. Well, this has been a journey. I mean, a journey. And I'm going to tell you what. When I found that dragon in the desert, and everybody that's been following me has heard me say this before, I was sitting here depressed after trying with every institution on the planet, basically, to recognize and just to talk about this. And they failed, every one of them. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting here saying, God, you chose me to show these things. I can't show them. I can't give the test. The thing was, these are for you to see and for others as a test. I can't give the test. And all of a sudden I hear behind my back, and I swear to God, this is true. I hear behind me, look in Morocco. And I turn around, I look at my TV sets on, and nothing about Morocco there, but I said, well, I'll look in Morocco. And boom, there's the dragon in the desert. Instantaneously I saw it, and I said, holy smoke. And again, didn't matter. Nobody paid attention. That was 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, or more maybe. Again, no attention whatsoever. No, I told you, I never really wanted to brag about this, like, because it sounds like I'm bragging. I'm not bragging. This is just what happened. It said, look in Morocco. So I come over here, I look in Morocco, and here I go, and bang, I see a dragon. I said, holy smoke. And I mean a dragon. That thing goes all the way across North Africa. And when you read Apollodorus, it's exactly what he says, exactly what Typhon was. Identical. No difference whatsoever. Here's his head. And there's his throat, and there's all his dragon scales. Now, I had been looking in Africa here at Atlantis, because it's right down the street from here, and I never saw this dragon, and I never saw the fish, and the fish is right below. The dragon's trying to kill that fish. There's the fish. Look at the size of that fish. And I can't explain this. People say, what would they eat? Where do the things swim? I don't know. I do not know. I have no idea. All I can tell you is the damn things are there now. And if you can't see them, then you're the one that's blind, not me. And I've shown these in such great detail. Now, here's the crazy thing. I had been looking at Atlantis, which is right here. It's the Eye of the Sahara. And they say, oh, no, that's not it, because they said it was outside the Straits of Gibraltar and all these kind of crazy things. Well, it's identical to what Plato said. And as I started studying it, all the stuff, this was an ocean at one time. This whole thing was an ocean. And this ran out across here. You see it ran out, and it made this alluvial plain, and it also created the Cape Verde Islands. It's all piled up here, and then eventually just skirted off the edges of the pile. Because it's coming out of here. I mean, you can see it. All you have to do is look open your eyes. Now, what happened to cause that? Well, Plato, they said, was destroyed within a day because it collapsed. It collapsed. And this was an ocean-going place. And here, look at this. You see all these? Look over here. If I was on an ocean and I had a shoreline, I would put all kind of docks and little waterways coming up to them. And then on the other side of the ring, I would put in more docks and waterways. And that's what I see here. And when I was really looking at it, I could see somewhere I think there's still some actually buildings here and everything. But anyway, I had been looking at this and never saw the dragon or the fish. And the other thing about Atlantis here is over here is the straits. They said it was always outside the straits. Well, these are the straits. And these straits lead into the Sahara Ocean, which now is gone. And it all drained out around here, around the end of the straits, and ran out into the ocean. All right, that's just too much of a crazy thing. I've been watching Atlantis and understanding what's going on here, and this was all ocean at one time. It's not desert. But it's still hard for me to believe these things could have been living in here, eating. What would they eat? Now, they said, Enoch said that giants were 2 miles tall. Well, if you had a half a dozen giants, maybe that would be lunch. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. These are the kind of things I can't explain. But as I continued on, I started finding evidence that all of this was true. Quetzalcoatl is on the east coast of the United States. Quetzalcoatl is right here. And it's identical, not close, identical. There's his head right there. And I started to understand the chemistry of why this color is different than this color. Why? It's perfectly outlined. There's no question that's his head. And these are the feathers coming up the top of his head. And there's his body, snaky looking body, going up the east coast, and it's all covered with feathers. And I have a bunch of people that have been talking about doing, I think they have called the Dragon's Trail or the Dragon's Tail or something. A buddy of mine went on his motorcycle through this whole area. And then I had another friend, Greg Morrison, went down there and found giant feathers. Look, here's a giant feather right here. Well, hold on a second, let me show you. All right, this is Greg Morrison went down through this area in, I think it was Tennessee or somewhere. He found these feathers. And that is a feather. This is one side of the feather. That's the other side. You see, and they look just like turkey feathers. And that's the thickness of it. All right, see the color here and the color there? Why would it be like that? And I can show you exactly where it came from. And this is identical, not close, but identical to the codex that they left about Quetzalcoatl. And here it is right here. There he is. There's Quetzalcoatl right there, and there he is right there. And here's his beard. They all had that beard. You see that beard? That's the thing that I think is dangerous, that beard. You see that beard right there? Anyway, that's Quetzalcoatl. And he had the feathers sticking right up the top of his head, just like the one coming right out of Little Rock, Arkansas. And so I found everything that these ancient texts wrote about. You see that? Look at the size of that thing. That's where this came from. Right out of here. Did you probably write like that? Something like that. That is, again, this is like the tiniest little piece of a feather. You need a microscope to be able to see that. You can't see that with your eyes. Now, you all know about my giants. I have them, they're on my property. This thing's 3 feet long. That's the fingernail. That's the little bumper pad so you don't bump into the next bone. These are the blood supplies, or vein and artery. And I broke this piece off that ridge right up along the fingernail to get down into where the blood supply is so I could get blood. And I had it DNA tested. It is human. And I had 2 other things DNA tested also, and they are human. And this is the friction skin, grip skin, whatever they want to call it. Hold on. And that's what came off of there. That's a fingerprint. That right there is a fingerprint. The nail is over here. And his fingerprint starts almost immediately. If you look at your own, and I have in a microscope, it's almost touching your fingernail. And this is the fingerprints right here. These are the sweat pores, you see? You see the sweat pores up here? This is tough as hell. This thing, it just popped right off of there because it's almost like it's glued on. And just below, you could go in and get blood because they're saturated with blood, fingertips. And I sent it off. It's excellent quality and dense. I extracted it very carefully. There's no question. And it's mitochondrial DNA. So that's all it tells you is it was from a human being. It's not specific to any certain human being, I don't think. Mitochondrial DNA just is a mother's side human DNA. That's just saying this, if I did it correct, this is a human body part. And I did do it correct. And it was dense, and it was excellent quality. So there's very little question whether it was real or not. And if any anatomist looks at that, or any person that has a thumb looks, or a finger looks at that, they should understand what they're looking at. All right, so now I come across the ancient texts. Like I say, I studied virtually all of them, but they just discovered the Nag Hammadi in 1945. Nobody's ever even known about this. And this is the Gospel of Thomas, and that's Doubting Thomas, who was Jesus' scribe. And he wrote down, well, here's what it says. These are the secret sayings which the living Jesus spoke when he was alive here on earth. Didymus Thomas, who is the Doubting Thomas, wrote it down. And it's talking about whoever finds interpretation of these sayings will not experience death. And I don't think anybody's ever going to understand these sayings, certainly not all of them. And he says, Jesus said, let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. And I am continuing to seek, and I'm getting close. I hope I'm getting close to finding. When he finds, he will become troubled. Well, that happened a long time ago. When he becomes troubled, he will be astonished. And that happened a long time ago, too. And he will rule over all. That certainly hasn't happened. Now, Jesus also, here's the reason I come forward with all this stuff, because he said that there's nothing that is hidden that won't be turned up. Hold on. Hold on a second. So now, I'm worried about hidden secret things now. I'm starting to realize this is all serious. But I start to keep going on this Gospel of Thomas. It says, Jesus, recognize what is in your sight, and that which is hidden from you will become plain to you, for there is nothing hidden which will not become manifest. The next thing he said, his disciple questioned him and said, do you want us to fast? How shall we pray? Shall we give alms? What diet shall we observe? And Jesus said, do not tell lies. Do not do what you hate. Don't do the things you hate. Other people do it. Don't do it. For all things are plain in the sight of heaven. They know what you're doing. Here's the key. Again, nothing, for nothing hidden will not become manifest. Everything there is going to be open to everyone soon. And nothing covered will remain without being uncovered. That is mud fossils in a nutshell. All right, and here's 56. Jesus said, now this is Jesus talking, he said, whoever has come to understand the world has found only a corpse. It's just a dead body. All right, and then number 8, he says the same thing over again. Jesus said, he who has recognized the world has found the body. And then he says that he who found the body is superior to the world. Well, just about anybody's superior to the world. I got to be honest with you. This world is not a great place. This is all about light, too. And that's why I'm separating these things. Because this is, listen to this. He who is near the fire, he who is near me is near the fire, and he who is far from me, Jesus, is far from the kingdom. So if you're not getting burned by somebody, you're not close to the kingdom. Here's the light again. The images are manifest to man, but the light in them remains concealed in the image of the light of the Father. All the light, everything is made of light. He will become manifest, but his image will remain concealed by his light. This is deep, 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 as deep as it gets. And a lot of this stuff relates to both of my areas of study.